Hi, I'm Nairi. I'm running an adoption support channel, and please check out my channel if you haven't already and subscribe. Today we've got another video around adoption depression. I've already made one quite recently, and this time we're looking at the struggle of juggling family life and all that brings. So the first thing I want to do is talk about the different things that present struggles for young parents, and then I want to talk about ways perhaps of maybe that we can overcome that. Now, as somebody who's now retired and I've had 5 of my own birth children and now I've got 2 adopted sons, I feel like I can reflect and look back as, shall we say, an older person on what can cause the problems and how we can overcome them. So the first thing to say about this is when you are younger, you are very caught up in trying to make money to keep your family afloat, and that doesn't matter whether you're single or you're with somebody else. The key factor when you're younger is to bring enough finances into the home to make sure that your home is nice for your child, make sure that they've got enough things to do, make sure you've got decent clothes, decent food, and that's what your focus tends to be. Now, when my family were younger, my 5 children were younger, I'd started up a business and my husband was working. Now, that business did not do very well to start with, and so we were very much struggling. And even before that, my husband was out of work and I was at home, so we're living on one wage, and we struggled a lot to make ends meet. And sometimes we had some offers of help from family, particularly my husband's side, because mine didn't have any money, and we would take that offer of help for bigger things, like if we needed new windows or we needed to update the car, and we were very lucky that they could do that, but not every family has that, of course. The trouble with focusing on getting enough finances in to survive, that means you don't have so much time for each other, as in partners or family, close family members, or even for your children, and the focus can make you go onto almost like a treadmill of getting by on monthly finances. What we used to find, when I look back now, is that almost however much money you have, generally you spend. We had a new home to sort of sort out, which was in a bit of a state, to be fair, because it was owned by an elderly man. In those days, I would quite happily go to all the charity shops and buy second-hand clothes for the kids. I would make the meals cheaper, and we would live with the carpets, the beds that we had. Did I want for more? Did I look at what I might be able to have? Yes, I did, but because those were the finances I had, I didn't think about that I could go out shopping or I could get anything, because those were the finances I had, and so that's what I accepted. But as we became more affluent, or we had more money to spare, then I would get used to not buying secondhand stuff and not having cheap meals, and actually having a house that was decorated. So when we lost finance, then it was harder to live by that, because I've been used to that taste of kind of having more. So my first bit of advice would be to you, just really look closely at the finances, at what you have to spend if you are being very much driven toward trying to keep things afloat, or it feels like you're doing that and therefore you're having to work extra hard to do that, or one of you or both of you are going out to work full time and it's becoming a real struggle with each other and with having enough time, not enough time for the child, but just being able to enjoy anything, because you are on the rat race. And I'm not being critical, because I've been on the rat race for many, many years, running my own business and trying to make that work. The next thing to say is rest and sleep and things like that. You possibly could be in a situation where, if you are overloading your days quite a lot, that you are then overloading your evenings, and you get up in the morning, whenever that is, and the day is packed with stuff that you need to do, whether that's at work or at home. It's packed with housework or work all day long, and then it's tea, and then it's getting the children ready for bed, and then finally, if you get them to bed at a sensible time, which we know with adopted children doesn't always happen, but it doesn't happen with any children. Sometimes children will be difficult to get to sleep, and sometimes they will wake up as well later in the evening. So you literally have no time whatsoever for yourself. No time probably for your partner, certainly no time for yourself. And before long, before you know it, exhaustion is kicking in, and you just can't think about a way that you're going to get out of this. You just cannot think about a way. The only thing that has ever worked for us, near and dear family or friends that will occasionally help us out so that we can just have a break. Now, and that might be that you can't, with adopted children, it's very hard to send them off for sleepovers, I think. With our biological children, we could do that and they didn't freak out. Adopted children, it's taken a lifetime, and still at 11 and 12 they still don't really like being away from home. So it might not be able to be anything massive. You may not be able to go away for a proper break. You may not be able to let them have a sleepover, but you can certainly get a couple of hours here and there. And I think you'll find as well that family and friends are happy to do a couple of hours here and there, and it can give you some headspace, or it can give you time just to sleep. It's just, you have to ask for help. And you have to get that time to recover and get some sleep back, and then if possible to get a proper break away from the home. But if not, just a couple of sessions a week of a couple of hours will really help you. Try not to let yourself get to that point. And again, if it's all tied in with work-life balance and trying to potentially over-provide, because most of us do try and over-provide if we can. We want the bedroom to look super duper splendid. We want them to have those extra toys. We want ourselves to look extra nice and them to look extra nice. And actually, none of that actually matters. But it's hard to face that none of that matters when you sometimes feel criticised by other people if you feel that you've not got those standards. This is the issue. So let's get on to that. So exhaustion, try not to let it creep in. Criticised from other, should I say mums? No, I won't. I'll say mums or dads, okay? We'll put everybody into the mix. But having gone to toddler groups, having run toddler groups, having run nurseries, I know how absolutely real this is. That each family or a lot of parents look at other parents and they either create their benchmark by somebody they see that they want to be like. So this person who looks immaculate when they get to school, when they get to nursery, the children look immaculate, they have a decent car, they have this, they have that. We set our benchmarks by that. Why do we do that? No idea, but we do. And we also, when you are at home with children especially, and you're mixing with other people at home with children, all of the conversation becomes around the children. And so therefore you are listening to what people are saying about what their children are doing, what they're going to buy next, what housework they're going to do for the day, or what, how wonderful their job is, because you're talking about those things. And again, you feel inadequate. You feel like somebody is doing a much better job of parenting than you, and especially as an adopter, that they have no idea what you're going through, because they don't, and therefore you automatically feel like a failure. And then of course you try harder to earn more money, you try harder to get your house looking nicer, you try harder to get your child to bed at the right time, and so it goes on in a cycle. You have to surround yourself by people that you know won't be critical, that you know understand, and that you potentially are maybe a little bit older than you. That can work as well, because as long as you don't have a critical family member, critical grandparents, critical mother or father, then sometimes surrounding yourself by those people who've already done it and been there can help you to put things back into perspective. Because you could have a really nice group of friends, but they can make you feel so down. Let me give you a quick example. Okay, this is when I was 22, 23, right? 30 years ago. I remember it though really well. So 30 years ago, there used to be a group of us that used to meet up that had our babies together. So this is my first child, and then I had my second child within 15 months. It was also when I was pregnant with my second child. And we used to meet up, and I was a bit of one of those kind of like mums that never got it together around the house, ever, however hard I tried. But I did enjoy having the children. I did get lonely at times and did wish that, you know, my husband wasn't working full time, but I did enjoy actually having the babies and the toddlers around and interacting with them, etc. So we used to go around to everybody's houses, and they were all different. And there was one particular lady that I can remember who had it all together. Her children were weaning early, because in those days it was very different from now. It was not 6 months, it was something ridiculous like 3 weeks you were weaning them off. She had her child weaning on stuff. Her child always looked tidy and clean. Her house was immaculate. She was immaculate. She came around, it was my turn to host it. She came around to my house and she picked up a photo on the side, which it was an old-fashioned kind of frame, and on the back was kind of like a dark blue velvet kind of thing. And she turned it around and there was a load of dust on it, because the dust kind of stuck onto it, if you know what I mean. But it was one of those frames where the dust kind of sits and sticks on the back. And she looked at it and she went, "Don't you care about your stuff, Nairi? Don't you care? This is a really nice photo. Don't you care about your house? Don't you care about your stuff enough to dust it?" And that's what she said to me in front of all the others. And because I was quite shy in those days, and you know, I wouldn't have challenged too much, then I just took it. I mean, now I turn around and say, well, you don't have to be here if you don't want to be here. But then I just took it. And that's what we do. We take flack from people, we take criticism. It's none of their business. How you cope, what you do with your child, with your family, is nobody's business but yours. And it's too easy to get dragged down with criticism. And then, you know, possibly when by the time my husband would have got home, I would have thought that over 100 times. And he would have probably wondered why I was in a bit of a like negative mood when he walked home, with nothing to do with him. Negative criticism is another thing to try to avoid. So those are just 3 things that I can think of, and I'm sure there are 100 more. I hope that helps you if you're getting into a bit of a rut, and I hope that you will join me on my channel and subscribe for all of my other videos, which I know will be helpful to you. Thank you.